Good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. This is BRNAM for Thursday, May 16th, 2024. And our top story today, millions of American kids are caregivers now. Joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Connie Siskowski is with the American Association of Caregiving Youth. Connie, so great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
It's great to talk to you. And look, caregiving and caregivers, a big part of our program, but also a big part of American society. I wanted to start off with reading this article. Millions of American kids are now caregivers. I want to get your reaction to that.
Well, it's so true. And unfortunately, they have been so unrecognized. So every effort to increase awareness among the public and professionals, we're very thankful for.
Yeah, and in terms of, just thinking about myself as a 17-year-old, I had school, high school, maybe thinking about the next step, whether I was getting a job or going to college. There's a lot on the plate of these youngsters. I'm going to call them youngsters because you're younger than I am. What's the impact here? I mean, do you see they're doing an important job with their families, but is there an impact potentially down the line when they're older, when they're looking to do their own careers?
Well, each situation is so unique, Jeff. And yes, especially when there's trauma associated with caregiving, there can be an impact not only, during their school time, which is like the work time of an employed family caregiver, but also later on in life. Trauma in children is now more recognized than ever before. And so our work extends to supporting the child today as well as tomorrow.
Yeah, really good point. And who knows what the impact will be, because we just don't know, unfortunately, know the future. Connie, we're all going to be at some point caregivers. Most of us will be caregivers to our loved ones. So whether it's a grandparent, a brother, a sister, a family, mother or father, or another family member. I mean, this is just a precursor or an early stage of what we're all going to experience in life.
But if we also need more workers in our healthcare force for the future. And if these children are supported and feel good about their accomplishments and valued, then maybe they'll be more likely to go into healthcare where we need people in the future. Excuse me.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. And to talk about that for a couple of minutes, I think caregiving is probably one of the most underappreciated jobs out there, maybe next to being a teacher. Would you agree with that? And what do we need to do to kind of bolster that appreciation? Because as we're talking about this morning, we're all going to need caregiving at some point, or we're all going to be giving care. You don't get out of this world without providing support to other people.
Well, and that's not always a bad thing either, because it develops a different sense of you. And when you care for another person, it takes that relationship to a different level. So, there are many benefits to the children and to society, because when they become educated, then and don't drop out of school and stay in school, it also benefits society. So, if you drop out of school, your taxable earning dollars are less. There's more disease, more crime, more teen pregnancy, and ultimate system dependency. So, while the government does support adult family caregivers, we're working hard to get these children recognized so that they can be supported too, because their numbers far exceed those who are homeless children of all ages, or those who are in foster care, who have formal recognition and support.
Yeah. Last question before we go to a commercial break, and there's so many thoughts in my head as we're talking about this, but Let's talk a little bit about, we live in an aging society where, people are living longer. So there's greater longevity, mortality has changed. We're going to need, as you're stating, we're going to need people in the caregiving workforce, among them 17, 18, 19-year-olds, to help support society.
Well, and that's true. And also, with the economy, we're seeing more households, combining multi-generations. We also have more grandparents raising grandchildren than ever before. And the government does support that group, but didn't really have the forethought about what happens when the grandparent gets sick. But also, the other big influencer is that technology has allowed for more complex care at home. And so people who used to be in a hospital or a facility are now being cared for at home. And so that takes the extent of caregiving to a whole different level.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we live in an amazing age. We can talk about this after the break, but artificial intelligence, all this technology, the phones that we have are more powerful than the Apollo lunar landing computer. So there's a lot to unpack there. Connie, as I said, I need to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more about caregiving. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network. Welcome back. We're joined this morning by Connie Siskowski of the American Association of Caregiving Youth. Connie, thanks so much for staying with us this morning.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's obviously a very, very important topic. Connie, we talked about in the first segment about some of the shortages around caregivers. We've got an aging society. How do we educate people to be caregivers, whether full-time, part-time, or just doing it as a son, daughter, loved one of somebody who needs care?
So are you talking about paid caregivers, caregivers in the workforce? And how do we attract them?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think we need, well, I'll leave it to you because I'm not the expert, but I would think that we want volunteerism, but people supporting other people, but we'd also want a paid workforce, people that would be paid and be experts in their field.
Well, and we need insurance companies to step up to the plate, so that managed care can be extended over time, as well as meeting the needs of the family. So, and it's a whole lot different today than it was years ago when families had a support system. There wasn't so much mobility as there is today, so that you don't have the extended family that perhaps was available in the past. So you know, one of the things that brings people to work is the joy that they experience. So by providing a good work environment, whether it's for a paid caregiver or a family caregiver, so that they can be recognized and valued, and so that they can feel fulfilled. Because how many hours a day do you spend in your job?
A lot,
So
a lot.
you need to have joy. And so the more that we can bring joy to this workforce, the better. And then the more people who will want to participate.
Yeah.
You know, we have this whole, you have a retirement network, and there's a whole cadre of individuals. You know, it doesn't mean that you have to devote your whole retired life to providing care, but you could help out a little bit. One of the things that we did a few years ago in my church is we had the realization with a volunteer support network, we called it Team Care. But what we did was buddy up, because sometimes, you know, it can be overwhelming as a volunteer to care for another person. But if you have a buddy, if you have a couple people that are involved in a team care, so that are all caring for the same individual or the same family, it really enhances that experience, as well as the socialization, which is so important for people who may otherwise be isolated.
Yeah, you bring up, and especially having gone through COVID, how we were all kind of dispersed and kind of locked down. I mean, I think that emphasized the need, the human need for not isolation, but the togetherness and helping one another. You mentioned the work that you done with your church, and there are probably a plethora of other faith-based organizations. How it sounds to me like a lot of this is really got to be community-based, meaning at the very local level. You can have support at the federal level, even at the state level, but it really is communal in the sense that there are communities around this country of people, and they want to be successful and they want to be helpful to one another. Is that true in your estimation?
Yeah, but we really need the support on all levels. And for community participation or through congregations, it is really important to, you know, be a good neighbor, and watch out and care for one another. Sometimes I don't know if it's fear, you know, when someone is retired and may live in a gated community, such as is common in Florida, for a lack of realization of what some other people are going through, and how just a little bit can make such a difference in the life of another person, in the life of a child who's a caregiver, in the life of a family. You know, maybe it's just bringing a meal to them, so somebody doesn't have to cook one night. There's a whole list of small things that can be done that really enhance the life of another person.
And Connie, as we're talking, and I'm thinking, about I'm not going to call it the old America, but the way things used to be. You talked about the hypermobility of people. And for example, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. My folks are still in Baltimore. I have a brother in Massachusetts, so we're kind of dispersed, although it's on the East Coast, and we're pretty close to each other. Do you ever see a time going back to where? Do you ever see a time where we go back to, the grandparents live at home with the parents? And the family. Do you ever see us kind of getting back to that maybe out of necessity? It's one of the things I think about with my parents as they get a little bit older. I would like to be closer to them or have them closer to me. So we could kind of revert back, as they say, history repeats itself. Could we revert back to that model?
Well, I do see more older people moving closer to where their children are. I think that that's, you know, a trend, and I think it's an important trend, so that there is a family close by. And of course, then sometimes the family have ulterior motives for being close by. So one has to also be careful, particularly in today's society.
Yeah, well, I just want to put forth to my mom and dad who are probably watching. I have no ulterior motives. I would like to be. Look, I wish I could be home again as a little boy and have my parents pay all my bills. Last question, Connie. Let's talk a little about aging in place and the necessity, because people are choosing to stay home, or a lot of more people are choosing to stay home and stay where they live. That sense of familiarity, and that puts some strains again on caregiving.
Well, it does put some strains on caregiving, but it also, you know, years ago when your parent left for work, it was time for you to go to school. But today, thanks to COVID and a change in the workforce, we have more people working from home. So if a parent is at home, there's less encouragement we're seeing for children to go to school. So you've probably read about the reports on school absences. And sometimes kids are absent from school to take care of an ill family member. But there seems to be a whole trend in changing the value of education and just even the value of going to school.
Yeah, and by the way, they should probably there should be no snow days at all in this country because of the technology that exists. And I guess, not to be joking about it, but if you can work remotely, meaning do schoolwork remotely, and a lot of it is electronic, you can just be on Zoom, but you don't even have to have your camera on. Like you and I are talking today, we're talking on Zoom. You don't even have to have your camera on. You could do your schoolwork anywhere. You could be a caregiver to a loved one, to your grandparents, to your mother, father, sister, brother, etc., and do your schoolwork and kind of multitask, because gosh knows, people today don't just do one thing at a time.
Well, that's true, but also there's the aspect of socialization and time for kids to be a kid and interact with good communication skills with other human beings rather than just the computer. We've seen one of the things that our program offers is tutoring. And so we had a donation of some online tutoring to help our kids, and it didn't work because you had to know what you didn't know. But if you don't, then you don't know what to ask. And so we really see the value of human contact with tutors, with mentors. People who are retired can be a mentor towards a younger person and really change their life and transform their life and help them feel supported.
Absolutely. Well, Connie, we're going to have to leave it there, but a really important conversation. I think it's one that we'll continue to be having. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thank you for having me, Jeff. Yeah, lots of information to cover. Appreciate it.
And that wraps up this episode of BRNAM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, then drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the latest curated news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, then visit our website. Hey, we're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRNAM. We'll have a very special guest and, of course, another important topic. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving. Don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the First Lifestyle and Wellness Network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.